All right, we've been waiting all week for this. Ronan O'Gara, good morning to you. How are you?
Jared, how's it going? Hi, Ashleen, how are you?
How have the celebrations been?
They were good, they were tough, yeah. I'm thankful for...
Tougher than the game.
Yeah, but I think it's a big part where you get involved with it too. I think from the dressing room afterwards to seeing, I think as we get a bit older too, you see the joy in locals. That has hit me big time this week. Just I suppose the pleasure you've given to the people of La Rochelle, and I think when you're a player, you miss all that. Really, you're kind of consumed by the dressing room and by your teammates. But when you're in the coaching group and you're the coach, you don't have many mates, so you're down the back of the bus on your own a bit, and you can see a lot of things, and you have a lot of spare time, and you could see what it meant to the people of La Rochelle. So that was cool. It was really cool.
Just explain a bit of that to us, will you? Because that's interesting. You're quite reflective about that, as opposed to, yeah, it was all amazing. It was like, actually, I got to see, and I maybe everybody isn't fully aware that, like, the people of La Rochelle haven't always had a brilliant rugby team bestriding Europe like a colossus or competing for the bouclier. It's kind of been a relatively new thing that they've been this successful. So you're kind of giving an identity to the rugby fans of the area.
Exactly, Jordan. That's powerful. I think we were blown away. It was like, I think many years ago, I remember when the Tour de France was very, very popular in Ireland, and when it got to the mountain stage, it's just the images of the guys on the bikes literally being helped up the mountain. It was literally like that with the bus. The bus was kind of being helped through the port by the locals. It was very, very powerful scenes where, like, you know, when you strip it back a little bit, there's a bus here. The bus is the immovable object. You know what I mean? The people shouldn't be in its way, yet they wanted to touch the bus. They wanted to throw scarves, jerseys, whatever they could to the players. And I think, yeah, as you say, 8 years ago the team was Pro D2, so like the Champions Cup. Has blown them away, you know, and I suppose on the roof of Europe or something, they were talking about it over here, and I mean, to be put in the same category as you know, Leinster or teams like that. For La Rochelle, it's very, very hard for them to understand that.
And I guess that's very powerful for you as well. It's been interesting for just watching the coverage, like the Telegraph immediately, O'Gara and England, and everybody's talking about the next job. But for me, the bit here is where you said this is the start of something. And like, I'm not asking you to tell us exactly what your plans are, but there's something very intoxicating and powerful about being at the beginning of a journey where it's all yours now in terms of this group. You have control over what happens next.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, the next 3 weeks are incredibly important too, because I'd like to think we start a new journey this weekend. You know, we've a tricky fixture in Lyon, but you're still potentially 4 games away from being champions of France. That's the bouclier. That's where the history is. That's where the love is. That's, you know what I mean? I think the fantasy competition nearly was the European Cup, because the people thought that can never happen, but one day they dreamt of you mean winning the bouclier. But I suppose the fact that, and the manner, I think in church there was a bit of a fairy tale ending, to be fair, and you know, I mean, it's very rarely that happens in sport. You contrast what happened 12 months ago in Twickenham when we probably felt we had a legitimate penalty not given, and the emotions that come with that for the following week, as opposed to what happened on Saturday, when, you know, the reality is there's nothing between the two teams, literally nothing. And that's why I think, you know, immediately you'd have a feeling for Leo and Stuart and Felipe and Dennis Leamy and Robin, because I know exactly how they're feeling. And there's, as usual, there's an overreaction to probably what went wrong for them and what went right for us. But I know that it could so easily been them, and we could have been 0 out of 3 as well, Jordan, in terms of big finals. And then the fact is that mentally we don't have it, you know, so the margins are absolutely tiny. And the Leinster management were class. They came for a beer in the change room afterwards. They were very, very I suppose it was very big of them to do that.
Not an easy thing to do, to hang out and watch your players celebrate, but I guess it's the type of thing that maybe they'll feed off over the next while. Can you talk to us about?
Yeah, it's the mark of them of men too. I think that is extremely hard, but they did it. And the easy thing was to stay in their own changing room, but no, they did what they felt was right, and I think it was very appreciated by the whole of our environment.
You talked about the bus being the immovable object. Your defence was a bit of an immovable object over the course of the game as well. We did a piece with some of the analysts in the build up to the game and then after the game as well, and it was clear that the stats show your ability to challenge Leinster's breakdown is something that had this ripple effect on their ability to be creative over the course of the 87, 88, however long the match lasted. So how far out in advance did you think, okay, if we're going to win this game, it's going to be by starting with that, and then everything else has to go your way as well? But when did the game plan begin to emerge in your mind in the build up to the match?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I find my suppose massive source of comfort was I don't think there's a coach in the world with the certain players at its disposal in terms of poaching balls. So I'm including test teams in this. If you go through the team in terms of Aldred can obviously poach the ball, Liebenberg is very good at poaching the ball, Will Skelton can poach the ball, Pierre Bougarit is a machine, Facundo Boss is the same, Winnie Antonio, Ray DeWardy, Danny Priso. They're only forwards now, okay? And then if you go, you have Dante and you have Bottia. So if you see, I suppose, how we set up defensively, we kind of changed the position of our number 10 a lot. So we want him running the game and we want him fresh. So kind of keep him out of the heavy goods vehicles, as I call them, running up the middle of the pitch. So, if the options for attacking teams would be you're either, and it was obviously a bit weakened without Kerbarla because he's like an extra forward. So your options are either you run at Liebenberg, who'll chop you, and you have on the inside you've Bougarit poaching, and on the outside you've Dante poaching. If you go a channel wider, you're going to run into Dante, and you have Bougarit inside poaching. So it's very, very, I suppose, methodical. What I suppose we put a lot of work into is just the importance of collisions 1 and 2. If you don't get them right against Leinster, you don't win the game. So for us, that was a big focus, trying to just, because they have a brilliant attack, we just had to dent them at the first collision.
At what stage in the game are you happy with how it's playing out?
I think the only stage I was unhappy was probably 18-10. And then the yellow card was like, oh, wow. So that's where you felt, next score, probably game over if it goes to the boys in blue, So, but I think it was great to see, I suppose, some of the key messages from losing and learning in finals. I suppose the ability just for the boys to play and express themselves and don't die wondering, just having a go. And I think that was probably, we made errors with the ball and we were inaccurate with the ball, yeah, but I thought the mentality of the players was interesting. They didn't get tightened up or frozen by execution errors. I think they had that willingness to throw the pass. They had that willingness to probably go a little bit deeper with their kicks. That for me is very pleasing to see them express themselves on the biggest stage in Europe.
And it must be so satisfying as well, having lost last year to Toulouse and now to come back a year on to have, I suppose, sorted out some of those wrongs, some of those things that went wrong, and to have improved, and to now say we've got over the line? Because it can hurt so much at that final stage, and then to be able to come back and go, right, we did something about that.
Yeah, you've no idea. Yeah, there's no point saying otherwise. It's exactly why you suffer in silence and isolation for 7 days after Toulouse, and on a double front too. You know, I think mentally it has a huge impact, getting beaten in back-to-back finals. So, I mean, summer wasn't easy, pre-season planning wasn't easy. We lost 4 to 5 games starting the season. So, you kind of supporters are going, well, yeah, this probably guy is out of his depth, you know. But I don't think the players panicked. I don't think the staff panicked. And, you know, to think that we went on a journey to Europe, to obviously with a very, very, very narrow victory against a classy team is very, very pleasing. And, you know, I think for people that weren't there, Marseille, I didn't understand the history of Marseille and Paris in the soccer. You know, I think when you're over here, there's huge history, and it's a mythical stadium. The surface is beautiful. The stands, I think the way the supporters are placed in the stadium, it gives it a great feel. The place was, and for a final, there was a lot of Leinster and La Rochelle fans. There wasn't a lot of neutrals, so there was a great atmosphere. And Leinster fans had their moments, La Rochelle fans had their moments, but it was a great atmosphere. But I think from a venue, the venue added a lot to it. I think it really felt like one of those special special European occasions.
Freudian slip there.
Yeah. But yeah, there are so many similarities to, I think, the loyalty of Rochelle fans, Munster fans, when you started off this journey. It was, I mean, Golov talking about, you know, we want to try and keep Toulouse under 50 points. Like, I'd say less than 18 months ago, we got beaten 49-0 in Racing. So, you know, that kind of, there isn't much logic to what has happened since, if you look at that day.
When you were talking about the defeats at the start of the season, what were your own doubts like? Because, you know, you clearly are self-reflective and questioning everything. Even after victories, you question everything. So two beaten finals last year, and then a slow start to the year. What was going through your head?
Genuinely, I was okay. You would have. They were desperately difficult fixtures, but I think for me, I could see the hangover affecting people differently. I think if you don't process, the depth of hurt involved in losing 2 finals, you've missed something. So for me, the start of the season was always going to be slow. And people make, I think, comparisons with French rugby when they don't really understand the template. It's an 11-month season. All coaches are looking for intensity. It's impossible to have intensity for 11 months of the season. It doesn't work. You know, you're going to blow up. So I think what you learn with a bit of time is how to time your run, and when you need to kind of push these boys and to put a squeeze on them, and then the other times where you can cut them a bit of slack. So I think what we've got right this year is I've been big on time off. I don't want to give them as much holidays and as much time away from the place as possible, which other people might go, well, they're on a bit of a freebie here, or he's got, you know, his leash is too loose with these boys. But I think they like that. They like coming, I think, in. And you mean another lesson was kind of, I think, why Munster worked in my time was Cork Limerick. Everyone said that it'll never work, but it was brilliant because we only saw the Limerick guys twice a week, but there was always new stories, there was always freshness, there was always that, I think, capacity to interest your teammate. And And if you have the same faces and doing the same routine day after day after day after day, it just becomes monotonous. So you try and break it up as much as you can, Jerry. You try and keep a spark with it, even though you're approaching nearly 40 games a year. But I think boys like playing games. They're not really that interested in training, you know.
And Ronan, talk us through those final minutes. How are you feeling?
Oh, jeez, all I could do, I just had my eyes on Wayne Barnes, you know. I just was hoping that left arm wouldn't raise, but whatever way the play was going, if he was to raise that hand, I think it was going to be penalty to blue, game over, you know. So you got to remember too, this wasn't a top 14 game where you kind of get an all freebie now and then from the referee if you're the home team.
No chance.
So, like, this is one of the world's best referees on the biggest occasion of all. So if there's foul play or going off your feet, and there's a highly likelihood when you're kind of pick and go 50 times that you have the capacity to make that error with just one slip of lack of concentration. But Skin Ryan has been working hard, not all year. It was great, you know, that it came down to his play at the end. And his detail in his first year as a coach, which is phenomenal, really. That you know, he's just adamant that the quickest and fastest and direct way to the line is north-south. Don't be passing that ball out to those backs. So he just it was good. It was really good discipline to have that capacity after 80 minutes to be able to think like that and to know what they wanted to do and believe in it. And I think, you know, it was still obviously incredibly nerve-wracking, because even watching back the replay now, I'm still kind of going, is he going to give a penalty? Is he going to give a penalty? You know, so it just shows what I must have been live.
Did anything surprise you about the aftermath? Were there messages from people you hadn't heard of in a long time? Was there something?
Yeah, it's been incredible. Yeah, people from all over the world, you know, it's been really touching, really, really touching. Yeah, it was. People have come out of the woodwork, you know, and it's been so powerful. Yeah, it was because I think when you're in it, you don't appreciate what you've done, but it's important that you step back, as you say, and if you're not touched by those scenes in the port, then you know, I mean, you're in the wrong business. You know, it was very, very special, Ger.
Another special moment was with your kids and your family afterwards. They must be wondering.
They're not my kids.
Okay.
No, it was great actually. They're nephews and nieces and a few of my kids. I have 5 of them, so we wouldn't all fit into the one pick. But it was lovely. I could see where Jess and the kids, where my 2 brothers had kind of they're based in Dublin, so they'd flown over, 5 of them. To Colin and Jennifer and their 3 kids, and my brother and his wife. So they were kind of obviously in black and yellow on a flight all full of blue. So that must have been quite awkward. But it was, yeah, I could see where they were during the game, and I knew exactly after the game where they'd be. So it was nice to be able to celebrate with them.
Just a word about that, because you brought your kids to France when they couldn't speak French, and then you uprooted them after they learned French to go to New Zealand and then back to La Rochelle. In fairness, it is like one of the nicest places in the world to live, so it all worked out pretty well in the end. But they've made sacrifices too as you go on this journey, never quite knowing if it was going to work, and then here you are, like one of the youngest, now officially best coaches in world rugby.
I don't know about that, but I think the great thing from a family point of view is that Jess is happy, the kids are happy. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. If she's wanting me out of my, I suppose, environment to get home, it just doesn't work, Ger. You know, you kind of, the importance of, I suppose, that balance between her and the kids being happy, it makes me tick, you know. I think otherwise this thing flops completely. But as you say, I mean, the upside of it is Ile de Ré. It's beautiful, but there are times when it's incredibly lonely and isolating as well. But Saturday, as you say, it's very different to being a finalist. I get that, you know.
Yeah.
Finalists sucks, you know, and I've had that for the last two, and I think just when you kind of realise that your name goes on the cup, that it brings it all together nicely.
Well, we keep score. That's the whole point of the sport. And I know you talked about the narrow margins, but the narrow margins are there in all the victories and all the defeats as well. It does alter the course of your career from this point forward, because you've always got this in the bank now. It is kind of life-changing as a professional sports person to win things.
Yeah, it is, and it took me a few years with the Munster boys to realise it, you know, and I think you are seen differently when you win things, and as you said, that's essentially what it comes down to. I think the enjoyment and partaking is good, but the animal, the competitor inside you that wants to be released, that needs to be challenged, there isn't a better, I suppose, moment than a final of a European Cup. And I have to stress, obviously, I have a little part. What you do need is a big part of buy-in, and it was great to see the boys sticking on task and going hard for 80 minutes for a team that was probably perceived by others to be not as fit. But I don't think that's the case. I think they really showed capacity to find a way to win.
Well, I've no doubt that you did have a little bit more than a small part to play with that. I think there's a very short list of people in the world that Leinster fans wouldn't begrudge the victory to. You're at the top of the list, so congratulations from a Leinster fan.
Yeah, that was nice. All the Leinster fans were really decent even afterwards. You know, I think that's important to say that they were very, very sporting. It's I mean, if you love your team, no matter who the other opposition is, you got to be hurting. But it would be remiss of me not to mention that too. There was a lot of classy Irish people in France on Saturday, and I think certainly my brothers and I appreciated that.
Well, listen, congratulations. It's a remarkable achievement, and as you said, the season's not over. We wish you the very best of luck. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Cheers, Ronan. I love in here on the comments. Des Kirby says, delighted for Rog. Ireland first. Still sickened for Leinster, though. Could you ask Rog if he would consider going to Leinster? We'll do that again some other time. Merci, Rog, says Jules Richard. Marseille awaits you whenever you want in the future. Katie Daly says, surely Ronan O'Gara has to be the Ireland next head coach. Well, I mean, we have a head coach at the moment doing pretty well, so that job might not be available. Michael Buckley says, O'Gara again being so transparent with how he works, the detail of how he set up his defence is so interesting. Class act. Jules Richard again, O'Gara, we love you in France, brother. Jim O'Sullivan, as usual, complete honesty from Rog. Class act all round. And Conor Anthony Crowley says, O'Gara is a rugby messiah, the special one. Isn't, like, I still think up until last week, there was still a not quite full appreciation of the transformative nature of what he's done so early in his career. Oh, big time. It's fascinating listening to him, the way he talks about his system and how he set it up, and how, like, I'm just like in awe, really am. It's amazing what he's done, and such a likeable character as well. And I think you can get that sense even from watching the celebrations after and how they all ran over to him when he was doing his interviews. You know, you can see they have that buy-in, as he spoke about, and that's so important. Yeah, very hard to give that up to go and coach the England team, you know, or whoever. Yeah. I think that it'd be great to see what they could do there over the next couple of years, because it's going to be much easier to recruit players too. Mm-hmm. The whole world is going to watch that and go, I want a little bit of that. So yeah, I don't think he's finished over there either. It's just beginning, as he said.